Hey church family, summer is almost here, which means it's time to start organizing for day camp. Day camp is going to be running from July 5th to the 9th, and it will start at 9 o'clock in the morning and go till noon. And so I need volunteers to help run some stations and be crew leaders, and we're going to be putting a day camp together that is COVID safe and fun for everybody. And so if you'd like to be involved with that, please email me at jennifer@nanaimoalliance.com. Let me know you're interested and I can plug you into a place that you can serve. So I look forward to hearing from you.
Let's play follow the leader. Follow the leader, the leader, the leader. Follow the leader, 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 follow the leader. Follow the leader! Follow the leader! Follow the leader!
Hey kids, welcome to another week of online church and to another children's feature. Have you ever played Follow the Leader? You know, sometimes following Jesus could feel a little bit like playing a game of Follow the Leader. Jesus is our leader. We are supposed to follow him. And following Jesus is not always easy. Sometimes it means that Jesus might lead us into places that are going to cause us some pain. This could look like a friend deciding that they don't want to be friends with you anymore because you believe in Jesus. Or it might mean kids making fun of you because you go to church and you follow Jesus. Following Jesus can also sometimes lead us into some uncomfortable situations. Places that we may not want to go because they're uncomfortable. This could look like sharing our faith with somebody who doesn't believe in him. Or it might mean standing up for our faith and standing up for what is right. And these things can be uncomfortable, but we are called to follow Jesus no matter what. You know, sometimes following Jesus might even mean letting go of things or people that we care about and that we love. It might mean spending less time with some friends that have a bad influence on you, or not playing that video game that you really like, or watching that movie that everybody else is watching, because those things could have negative impact on you. So following Jesus is not easy, and Jesus never said that it was going to be easy. He was pretty clear that following him was going to be hard and was going to require some sacrifice. In Matthew 10, he says that if you refuse to take up your cross and follow me, you are not worthy of being mine. If you cling to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will find it. So we're supposed to pick up our cross and follow Jesus. But what does that mean, to pick up our cross? Jesus, he carried his cross up to Calvary. He carried the very thing that he knew was going to take his life from him. And he gave his life freely for us. And he has paid the price for our sin, but in return, he asks us that we give up our life for him. We give up our wants and our desires and sometimes things that we love in order to follow Jesus. And so following Jesus is not easy. Here's our question for today. What do you think it looks like for you to pick up your cross and follow Jesus? Well, kids, that's it for today, and I'm looking forward to some exciting things up ahead. I'm planning for day camp and the return of in-person church, and the return of Kids Church, and it's going to be so exciting to be able to gather again together and learn about Jesus together. So we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Welcome, sisters and brothers from Nanaimo Alliance Church and from around the world. I want to welcome you here today. I'm glad that you've joined us. I'd like us to think a little bit today about the idea of family. Family certainly is on my mind. I am expecting a baby any day now, and it's such an incredible thing to be kind of placed, planted into a family. And I think family is definitely, a God-designed thing. But I also think God has more in mind for us and for this idea of family than maybe we think. I think, like so many qualities and characteristics of God, He wants us to think bigger than maybe we are used to thinking, or maybe socially or culturally how we think about things like family. Jesus has invited us into His family. He's called us His friends. He's called us His brothers and sisters, co-heirs with Him. And God identifies us as His children. And this is an identity that's so much bigger than the one that we are born with, or born into, or adopted into. So I want us to think a little bit about that bigger picture family idea and the big kingdom family that God is building around us. So please join me. Through every battle, through every heartbreak, through every circumstance, I believe that You are my fortress, You are my portion, You are my hiding place. Oh, I believe You are the way, the truth, the life. I believe You are the way, the truth, the life. I believe through every blessing, through every promise, through every breath I take. I believe that You are provider, You are protector, You are the one I love. I believe You are the way, the truth, the life. I believe You are the way, the truth, the life. I believe You are. It's a new horizon, and it's a new horizon, and I'm set on You. And You meet me here today with mercies that are new, and all my fears and doubts, and they can all come true, because they can't stay long when I'm here with You. And it's a new horizon, and I'm set on You. And You meet me here today with mercies that are new, and all my fears and doubts, and they can all come true, because they can't stay long when I believe You are the way, the truth, the life. I believe You are the way, the truth, the life. we were waiting without hope and without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word, from a throne of endless glory to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. To reveal the kingdom coming and to reconcile the lost, to redeem the whole creation. You did not despise the cross, for even in your suffering you saw to the other side, knowing this was our salvation. Jesus, for our sake you died. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. And the morning that you rose, all of heaven held its breath, till that stone was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death. And the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe, for the souls of all who'd come to the Father are restored. And the church of Christ was born, then the Spirit lit the flame. Now this gospel truth of old, it shall not kneel, it shall not faint. By his blood and in his name, in his freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Let's sing praise to the Father. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings, the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Praise forever to the King of Kings. Praise forever to the King of Kings. Jesus, that is who we recognize you to be, the King of Kings, and our brother, our friend, the one with whom we sit next to on the throne. Help us to enlarge, deepen, broaden our understanding of that identity that you've given us, above and beyond all the things that you have done, that we would understand just how great it is to be a child of God, to have your breath breathing through us by the Spirit. Open us up to more and more of that. and great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. And great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. And all the earth will shout your praise, and all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath. Jesus, we recognize that you are the source of life, that you are the source of our living. And so we pour out our praise to you. Sometimes those words roll off my tongue anyway, too quickly. Pour out my praise. What I mean when I say I pour out my praise is I say, Jesus, you are so good. You are so kind. I see how marvelous the work that you have done is in my life and in lives around me. I recognize with my limited vision how big and worthy you are of everything that I have to offer. I want you to be lifted up higher and higher. Receive the love from this heart and from the hearts of your children. Draw us deeper into love, relationship with you, that we can know you and grow up in our salvation in this gift of life you've given us. We lay these things out in Jesus' name. Amen.
One time Jesus entered a house, and the crowds began to gather again. Soon he and his disciples couldn't even find time to eat. When his family heard what was happening, they tried to take him away. "He's out of his mind," they said. But the teachers of religious law who had arrived from Jerusalem said, "He's possessed by Satan, the prince of demons. That's where he gets the power to cast out demons." Jesus called them over and responded with an illustration. "How can Satan cast out Satan?" he asked. "A kingdom divided by civil war will collapse. Similarly, a family splintered by feuding will fall apart. And if Satan is divided and fights against himself, how can he stand? He would never survive." Let me illustrate this further. Who is powerful enough to enter the house of a strong man and plunder his goods? Only someone even stronger, someone who could tie him up and then plunder his house. I tell you the truth, all sin and blasphemy can be forgiven, but anyone who blasphemes the Holy Spirit will never be forgiven. This is a sin with eternal consequences. He told them this because they were saying, "He's possessed by an evil spirit." Then Jesus' mother and brothers came to see him. They stood outside and sent word for him to come out and talk with them. There was a crowd sitting around Jesus, and someone said, "Your mother and your brothers are outside asking for you." Jesus replied, "Who is my mother? Who are my brothers?" Then he looked at those around him and said, "Look, these are my mother and brothers. Anyone who does God's will is my brother and sister and mother."
Hey everyone, so glad you could join us today. We are so excited. It looks like we are going to be back together again soon, and you're going to be hearing more details about that in this next week. So keep looking at your emails. Okay, let's dive into today's message. How important is your family to you? Most of us would probably say our family is really important, very important. And this is one of the game changers that Jesus addresses in the biographies of his life. Now, he's not giving the 5 ways to be 5 ways for a better marriage or 7 simple steps to godly children or anything like that. It's something quite different, and it is really profound. Did you know the Barna Group asked a question, who's the most important relationship in your life? 7 out of 10 people said family was the most important. You know who got left out? God. 7 out of 10 either mentioned parents or children, or spouse, I should say, or children. And now let's dive in and keep in mind that the 10 Commandments started with these things. It said, honor your parents and worship God. But in today's culture, we have often got that backwards. When Jesus spoke, he was speaking at a time when family was everything. I mentioned this before. Family was everything at the time of Jesus. They were your security. They were your identity. They were your future. And that's why what Jesus is about to say is so amazing. So this is the scene. Jesus is teaching to a crowd. Things are getting so busy, so chaotic that they don't even have time to eat. And this is what happens. It says, when Jesus' family heard what was happening, when his family heard what was happening, they tried to take him away. Why? He's out of his mind, they said. Out of his mind. I can always count on family to be a good support, right? That's that vote of confidence you need as they stand at the back and facepalm and plan your intervention. Oh man. So keep in mind now, Jesus was rejected by his family. This is important to keep in mind. It continues on. Then Jesus' mother and brothers came to see him. They stood outside and sent word for him to come out and talk with them. This place was packed. This was not COVID friendly at all. And so they passed a message along to him, kind of like a youth group game, all the way up until it got close to him. And then it says, there was a crowd sitting around Jesus, and some yokel said, your mother and your brothers are outside asking for you. Now, Jesus is interrupted. And if you've been following the series, you know that when Jesus is interrupted, quite often he takes this as an opportunity to teach something really profound. Something that, for his listeners, is going to sound completely outrageous. Jesus replied, who is my mother? Who are my brothers? And then he lets it hang there. And I can just imagine darting eyes all around like, what are you talking about, Jesus? They're the people who are outside. They're wanting to see you. And who knows how long he let them sit there like that. It says, then he looked at those around him and he said, look, these are my mother and brothers. Anyone who does God's will is my brother and sister and mother. Mic drop. What? What are you talking about, Jesus? He just redrew the boundaries of family right before their eyes. Not according to your bloodline, not according to what family you marry into, but around faith, because it takes faith to do God's will. And God's will, of course, just want to remind you, is to put your trust in God's one and only Son. And what he said is both an inclusive statement and an exclusive statement. He said anyone who does the will of God, but it's also exclusive because it's not just anyone, it's anyone who does the will of God. It is the most inclusive and exclusive statement all at the same time. Let's go to another game changer, same kind of topic, and he dives in. It says, a large crowd was following Jesus. He turned around and said to them, here we go. If you want to be my disciple, you must hate everyone else by comparison. I can just imagine everyone's probably thinking, it's them Romans, right? That's what you're talking about. I mean, they're easy to hate. I hate them already. Tax collectors, I hate them already. And then Jesus just blows them away with who he's talking about. Your father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even your own life. Otherwise, you cannot be my disciple. And if you do not carry your own cross and follow me, you cannot be my disciple. God needs to come before our family, and Jesus said even before ourselves. And we need to hear that in our current culture, that ultimately it's not my thoughts, my feelings, my understandings, my desires, or my will. All of those things have to bow to God if I want to follow Jesus. This is about death to self. God over family, God over self. And this might be part of the Jesus you never knew. Maybe you didn't know this about Jesus, that he calls us to follow him as our ultimate. Another scene in Jesus' life, and this is the last one I'll look at before I do some explaining. Jesus said, do you think I have come to bring peace to the earth? No, I have come to divide people against each other. And you can just imagine people are looking around like, divide us against each other, like Jews and Romans, right? Or like the good guys and bad guys? Or what are you talking about? Is this, what are you saying? And this is how Jesus continues. He says, from now on, families will be split apart. 3 in favor of me and 2 against. Or 2 in favor and 3 against. Father will be divided against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, and mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. Loyalty to Christ, he says, will divide families. It was true then, it's true now. And maybe you are experiencing that right now. Maybe there's division in your family because of Jesus, just as he predicted. And here's the thing that we have to understand from what Jesus said. You cannot hold your family together and stay true to Christ. You cannot do that. You will redefine family, or you will compromise your faith. One of those two things. And so from then on, as Jesus taught this and he redefined family, all of a sudden, the people who came after Jesus, they started writing to the church as part of the church, Paul, Peter, John, and they talked about the church as a body and a temple and a family. They used terms like sister, brother, mother, spiritual father, family. This wasn't just some organization. This was a family. And today, a lot of people, though, put our human family first. The worship of family, some theologians call family-anity. And once you understand that our culture worships family, you can't help but see it everywhere. Worship spouse, worship children. It is everywhere. Now, I collected some memes and I wanted to show you. I had too many. I couldn't show them all to you, so I'll try to get them maybe in messages some other time. But I just wanted to show you some of them because once you understand family-anity, you see it everywhere. Here's some examples. This was a meme floating around some time ago. It says, "My biggest accomplishment will never be money. It will be who I raised." Well, this is good that, children come before money. That's good. But the children being your biggest accomplishment? Jesus said that, and this isn't really something that we accomplish, but Jesus said the most important part of our lives is having a right relationship with God. That is the most important part of our lives. And so when someone says, the most important part of my life is my kids, well, that's family-anity. That's the worship of family. Paul said, if I'm going to boast, if I'm going to brag about accomplishments, I'm going to boast about Jesus. I'm going to boast about him. I'm going to boast about what he has done in me. And that's the way it should be for all of us. Here's another. This was a mug that I saw. Advertising, you should buy this mug. And this is how it starts. To my wife. Oh, good start. Okay, here we go. I'm not perfect. I'll annoy you. Oh, yeah, okay. This is pretty honest. Tease you? Okay. Say stupid things. Oh, now we're really getting honest. This is great. Okay, I like this mug. I'm going to buy this mug. But you'll never find anyone who loves you as much as I do. Say what now? I'll always love you. Now, you might be saying, okay, come on, Pastor, a little gushing every now and then about your spouse. Shouldn't you be encouraging this thing? Doesn't this, help spouses kind of love each other? And here's the message to this wife. Stop looking for a greater love. You've already found the ultimate. Nobody is going to love you like I do. And I will never stop loving you. I'll always love you. You'll never find anyone who loves you as much as I do. And both of these are lies. Total lies. He's basically saying the ultimate hope that you have for love will depend on this sinner. That's right. And the sinner who has a propensity for selfishness. And the wife, after she finds out that her husband actually is pretty selfish at times, she's going to say, well, I guess this is as good as love gets because he said there's nothing better out there and stop looking. I mean, he told me so. Is he lying to me? I don't know. Oh, man. It says, I'll love you always. Now, remember, in biblical terms, love is what we do. It's a decision. It's a choice. It's not a warm, fuzzy feeling. And so, in order for a person to say, I'll love you always, they'll always have to put you first. In every decision, in every thought, you come first. And so this guy who says, I'm going to love my wife always is true until he insists on his vacation spot. And he lets you do all the housework. And he forgets your birthday. and you catch him looking at porn. All of a sudden, he's not loving you always. And to be fair to him, it's impossible to love another human being always in that way, always putting them first. We're naturally selfish. I mean, our love, while it can be grand at times, it's inconsistent at best and selfish at worst. So I passed on buying the cup, as you can probably guess. Here's another one, last one. Don't have time for any more. Here's the last one. It says, raising kids was my choice. I gave up things and went without them. I regret nothing. My life was, is, and always will be for my children, no matter how big they get. They didn't ruin my life. They gave me a whole new view of the meaning of life. Ugh, the martyr parent, the hero parent. My life was, is, and always will be for my children. Oh man, when we live for our children, when our life, our value, our purpose is around our children, apparently even the meaning of life is around our children, this is family-anity. And Jesus would not have liked any one of these memes. He would not have clicked like on any of these. Now, is Jesus anti-family? Of course not. The Bible holds human families in high regard, just not the highest regard. And in our post-Christian culture, and even within church families, God is replaced by marriage and family as the ultimate hope for self-fulfillment, joy, peace, and contentment. And it is dangerous. Dangerous. And I'll give you 5 reasons why family worship is dangerous. And here's the first one. It requires manipulation. It takes extreme measures to keep a family in line when your whole virtue depends on how your family is doing. And people outside your family, well, they're going to be shown a sanitized version because your whole worth and identity is wrapped around what people think about your family. And you will use any means necessary to keep the family in line. Guilt, shame, codependency, they're all on the table. Because again, your worth and your identity are on the line. And your family members, because of this, because there's so many expectations placed on them to perform, they become crushed. You want to know why so many marriages end in failure? It's because the more pressure we put on our spouse to perform, to meet our needs, to do everything that we require of them that only God can do, they cannot bear that weight. And with our kids, under those pressures, as soon as they get an opportunity, they are gone and they may never come back. Or they turn around and they start to manipulate you as well. You become a master manipulator when your family is God. Second, you ride an emotional roller coaster. When the meaning in your life is family and your identity and your worth are tied into them, how they perform. Remember, I'm not talking about how they're doing. I'm not talking about being sad when they're sad or happy when they're happy. I'm talking about how they perform will determine how you are feeling. When they are doing well in life, when they're successful, you feel good. When they're failing, you feel bad. And up and down and all around you go because your life is so tied to them. And your identity is so tied to them. There's no sense of stability or peace when family is God. Number 3, you become their slave. When their success lands on you, you will work tirelessly for their success. And life will be centered around avoiding family failure. You will have no life of your own. You will even start to forget who you are. You'll call on them to meet my needs. And it will make you so angry when they fail. Are you angry right now? Maybe it's because you're placing expectations on your family that they're not meant to carry. And you know who often loses in this slavery to family? It's your church. Your gifts, your treasures, your time, your thought, your prayer will go towards your human family. and often not towards the church. Often church family is put aside for human family, rarely the other way around. And when you're a slave to your family, you can't really be honest with them. You can't really tell them what they need to hear. Instead, you'll wind up having to tell them what they want, what you think they want to hear. Slavery is inevitable when family is God. Number 4, you may condone violence. Now, violence is usually bad in itself, and everyone will agree on that, but in our culture today, violence to defend your family is considered okay. Came across this meme not that long ago, kind of went around and said, and this was during the race issues that were going on in the States last summer. It says, if my son went for some Skittles and didn't return, or played in the park and didn't return, or went for a job and didn't return, or reached for his license and didn't return, and with his last dying breath called out my name, I would burn down the blank city too. Let that sink in. This is always a great way to end a meme. Have you ever noticed that? Let that sink in. That's like, oh, you need to really pay attention. I really nailed you to the wall, didn't I? Ooh, let that sink in. So when it comes to worshiping family, violence can become okay because it's my family. And see, and the thing is, when I worship my family, all other families become second class. All other people become second, less important, worth less. This is familyanity. And sometimes, as people have pointed out, this worship of family can even be directed at specific members of the family to shape up, which is where we can sometimes get violence against LGBTQ people in the family or honor killings in the family. Because this is about defending family. And abuse is often seen as loving. I need something from you. And we condone it in our minds sometimes as abusers because they think, well, I'm only doing this out of love. Love for my family. We got to keep this all together. And if it's not physical violence, sometimes it can be heart violence in the name of defending family. Hatred, unforgiveness. I will never forgive you for hurting my family. Look, here's the thing. Justifying violence in retaliation towards others for the sake of family is a worship of family and not a worship of God. And finally, number 5, you will abandon God. That seems very obvious. If you're going to worship family, you will abandon God. Like I said, familyanity puts unbearable weight on your spouse and children. You're robbed of peace. You become a slave to appearances. It can lead to violence, and God becomes an afterthought. Values can be compromised to keep the peace, to try to lessen the division that Jesus promised would happen when you really want to follow him. Remember, you can't keep your family together and follow Jesus wholeheartedly. Something will happen. Either the family will divide or you'll compromise your beliefs. And I see it all the time. We're all susceptible to this. We all have a tendency towards this. To worship family, there is a slow crawl to start living like an unbeliever to keep the peace. The 10 Commandments, one of them says, you shall have no other gods besides me. And do you know why family makes for such a lousy God? I'll give you, there's probably many reasons. Let me give you 3. First of all, they don't know you. I mean, we often think family knows us best, and as far as human terms, that's true. But they don't know everything about you. No one can. They don't know your deepest, darkest secrets. They don't know what you do behind closed doors. They don't know the secret thoughts that you may think. They don't know you. Only God knows you. He knows everything about you. And without God, you are in one way alone. So your family doesn't know you, and they don't love you. Of course, they have moments of loving you. Of course they do. But they can't love you perfectly, consistently, sacrificially. Like I already said, they can't. But God can. And God has. And God does. Finally, number 3, they can't help you. Your family can't help you. Oh, they can help you on occasion with certain things, but I'm talking about the big things. They can't help you. Ultimate forgiveness, redemption of your life, fulfillment of your life, having a sense of complete acceptance. Your family can't do that for you. They weren't designed to do that. You were not ultimately designed for human family, which, by the way, and hear me on this, if you are single or if you are childless, you need to hear this. This is why, because you're not designed for human families, you can have a perfectly fulfilling life and not be married and not having kids. And Christianity is the only major world religion that I know of that affirms singleness and not having children, because you don't need these things to be fulfilled in the Christian worldview. You were designed not for human family. You were designed for oneness with God, with your worth, value, purpose, and meaning all tied to Him. And this makes you part of the ultimate family. Here's a tough question for you. Is there a relationship in your life that determines your happiness, sadness, depression, or anxiety? Just think about that for a minute. Is there someone that determines these things for you? If there is, chances are you are worshiping that person. Only by loving God supremely can we be secure enough and belong enough and feel accepted enough and forgiven enough and to feel worth enough and to be adored enough to freely love others without placing unbearable expectations on them. You see, His love provides security when family or friends fail us. His love provides presence when family or friends can't be there, and they can't always be there. His love provides redemption when family or friends condemn us. His love provides truth when family or friends tell us what we want to hear. Oh, so important today. His love provides intimacy when family and friends are emotionally distant. His love provides understanding when family or friends just don't get us. And His love provides acceptance when family and friends are kind of indifferent. I'm not saying love your human family less. I'm saying love them differently. Keep us perspective. Yes, of course, the Bible speaks greatly of we have responsibility to our human family. We do. We're just not to worship them and count on them to meet our needs. Remember, Jesus was rejected by His family. So what did He do? How did Jesus respond to rejection from His family? He turned to His spiritual family. He said, These people are my family. It is so important that one of the things we set as a church as one of our values, one of our vision statements, is that everyone is a worshiper. And what that means, and I'm not talking about standing up and singing and waving our hands in the air during music. That's just one small form of worship. Worship is about complete surrender of everything we have to God. That includes the idol of family. It includes the idol of family, laying that down before God. And God becomes our head, our Father of a new and better family. This is the game changer that Jesus introduced to us. See, you were designed for a superior family where everyone's greatest love is the same. It will be a more loving family, a more unified family, a more gracious family, a kinder family, a more forgiving and accepting family, and a much longer lasting family than the one you may be worshiping right now. This is the game changer. This is the perspective that Jesus wanted us to have. The church is not just a body. It's not just a temple. It is a family. And we cannot put our human family above God, certainly. And we need to keep some perspective between the importance of our human family and our spiritual family. Remember, I come back to this time and time again, but when Jesus was rejected by his family, and some of you have been rejected by your family, what consoled him? Where did he turn? His faith family. And so should we. Let's pray. Lord, I want to thank you that we have a family to turn to, because so many of the people watching this are hurt, are disappointed by their spouse, their children, their parents, their brothers, sisters, what have you. Lord, I pray that you would help us as a church to be the family that some of us just don't have in our human families. And Lord, above all of this, may we worship you supremely. May we lay down the idol of family before you and worship and serve you and you alone. May we cling not to our family, but to you. May we look to you for our greatest needs, for our identity and belonging and acceptance and all the things that our hearts crave, God. May we look to you and not to our human family, not to our spouse, not to our children, not to our parents, but to you. Help us, God, to lay this idol down. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you, everyone. Take care.
Let's close our time together now with a reflection on our identity as children of God. As children of God, the King. That is who he says we are. Please join me.
I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Free at last, he has ransomed me. His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am.
we hold on to that, to Jesus, with our hearts. I am a child of God. Yes, I am. Blessings to you, brothers and sisters, as you go. Peace.